The whole essence of the rail revolution in Nigeria is not just for the movement of people, but also cargo facilitation, which in turn will unlock trade, stimulate investment, and create wealth. With the laying of tracks of the standard gauge almost getting into the seaport in Apapa, there is a new opportunity at this corridor. It is the resuscitation of the freight operation through rail, which has been dormant for months. Now, the opportunities this will create are enormous, as there is excitement among investors that a batch load of train is equivalent to 19 trucks. For those doing business at the Apapa corridor, it is a huge relief from the gridlock. The prospect of freight operation through rail is our focus on Panorama from the Lagos Network Center. I am Hingino John Adams. We will be right back. We begin with an update on COVID-19. On the 7th of June 2020, on the 8th of June 2020, 315 new cases of COVID-19 were confirmed in 14 states of the Federation by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC. The breakdown shows that Lagos has 128, FCT 34, Rivers 32, Edo 28, Oyo 22, Kaduna 20, Gombe 13. Others are Ogun 8, Plateau 5, Delta and Kwara 7 each, Kano 5, Bauchi 4 and Katsina 2. Total confirmed cases in the country now stands at 12,801. 4,040 discharged persons with 361 deaths recorded. And Nigeria is leveraging on the COVID-19 pandemic to improve the nation's healthcare system and infrastructure. Chairman of the Presidential Task Force, Boss Mustafa, while reviewing the national response, says molecular laboratories have been increased from 2 to 30 within 100 days since the first index case was confirmed on February 27th this year. Mitaire Ikpen reports.
For the Presidential Task Force, building the nation's capacity to respond to COVID-19 and other infectious diseases was part of the strategy that characterized 100 days of national response.
The number of laboratories in the COVID-19 network has increased from the bare minimum of 2 with which the Nigerian Center for Disease Control started with to 30. Over 80,000 tests have been conducted in the country. Over 13,000 health workers have been trained, increasing the human resource available for case management, and more personal protective equipment and ventilators have been procured and prepositioned across the country. The number of beds available for isolation and case management has increased from 3,000 beds to about 5,000 beds nationwide.
The Minister of Health and the Director General of the NCDC updated the nation on the outcome of investigations into the mysterious deaths in Kano, as well as the rising cases in Abuja.
The verbal autopsy that we spoke of revealed that about 56% of the deaths had occurred at home, while 38 were in a hospital. The investigation suggests that 50 to 60% of the deaths may have been triggered by or due to COVID-19.
We know people in the Southeast travel a lot, so there was no reason why there wouldn't be more cases there, given the tendency to travel. So from the very beginning, we were always worried about insufficient data coming out from the Southeast. Initially it was thought to be about testing, but we've improved the testing, access to testing capacity now.
Protocols are being fine-tuned ahead of the resumption of evacuation of Nigerians abroad.
The key part of the proposal is that there will be a need for Nigerians that are currently outside the country to undergo a PCR test for COVID-19 before they board. These tests need to be valid at least for 14 days. In other words, if the test is done beyond 14 days, then it will not be accepted.
Before the industry comes back, we would inform the public, we would sensitize the public what our intentions are and what to do and what we expect of you.
I'm happy to say that we have about 3.6 million individuals, households that are currently in the National Social Register.
The public is advised to disregard speculations on school resumption on social media, as no date has been fixed yet.
We want to be only able to open when it is safe to do so.
With the coronavirus pandemic far from over, state governments were urged to provide adequate security around isolation and treatment centers to avoid abscondment of patients. In Abuja, Mitaire Ikben, NTA News.
Still on COVID-19, health workers are to receive their April and May COVID-19 hazard allowances this week, as capturing responsible for the delay in payment has been resolved. This was the decision reached by the Minister of Labour and Health after a crucial meeting with health workers in Abuja. Emmanuel Aimiro reports.
Understanding reached in April this year by the federal government with health workers to pay new hazard allowances to cushion the effects of COVID-19 is now being transmitted to a memorandum of action as government retained all COVID-19 hazard allowances for various categories of health workers. A development that brought smiles on the faces of health workers at this meeting.
The issues or rumors that is going to be reduced is no longer tenable. I mean, it's been clarified by the Honorable Minister of Labour that there is nothing like that and that we are going to be duly paid. In less than 2 weeks, certainly, we know a lot will make Bangam.
Both Ministers of Labour and Health assured health workers that government will keep to its side of the bargain.
Hopeful that government will get some other funds to pay for June. Thereafter again, we'll look at July, August, and September.
The issue of communicating the specific decisions at this meeting to the institutions or health institutions affected in respect of medical workers who are retiring at this point in time, rather than going out there seeking for volunteers, those who are already in the system can be accommodated to help at this trying time.
Apart from the COVID-19 hazards allowances, which was reviewed upward, the employees' compensation scheme for workers who sustained injuries or infectious diseases and a life insurance package have been reactivated to encourage workers at the front line. Emmanuel Ayemiro, NTA News.
In the meantime, as part of measures to foster more harmonious working relationship between the police and citizens in the enforcement of COVID-19 guidelines, the Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, has unveiled an operational guidelines and regulations for the Nigeria Police and other law enforcement agencies in Abuja. Francis Form has the reports.
The increased reported cases of domestic violence, many say, are linked to the COVID-19 restrictions. Deepening respect for the right of citizens, as well as providing new set of policing tools for tackling domestic violence, rape, child molestation, and other gender-based incidents are now on the stream, courtesy of the Nigeria Police. The Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, says the recent unfortunate developments prompted the introduction of these operational guidelines to coordinate and reshape the conduct of personnel and other law enforcement agencies in the lines of operations.
We had issues of group of people seizing the opportunity to commit one form of crime or the other. This handbook is also addressing such situations when it arises under the COVID-19 pandemic situation.
The IGP has also ordered strengthening of the Gender Desk Unit and the juvenile welfare centers across the country and the deployment of investigative assets to deal with gender-related offenses. In addition, the IGP equally directs the Force Provost Department, X-Squad, the Public Relations Department, the Complaint Response Unit, and the Public Complaint Bureau to carry out oversight roles of adequate evaluation and monitor officers to ensure compliance with the guidelines. In Abuja, Frank Sisfom, NTA News.
And now, away from COVID-19, President Muhammadu Buhari has described as reassuring the giant strides being recorded by the Nigerian army in the ongoing counter-insurgency operations and urged the service to neither relent nor be lenient with the criminal elements as efforts are intensified towards making Boko Haram a thing of the past. The president stated this while granting audience to the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, who for the first time made public the casualty figure on the side of the terrorists. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo has details.
For over 2 months, the Army Chief, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, had been in the front line with officers and soldiers committed to putting an end to the menace of Boko Haram and other criminal elements in the northeast. He is here to give President Muhammadu Buhari details on the military operations, achievements recorded so far, and the next plan of action.
The troops' morale is very high, while in the field there, some of them are even ready to stand between me and the bullet. They are ready to take the bullet for me. So I'm very much impressed and happy with my officers and soldiers. So far, over 1,429 of these Boko Haram terrorists have been neutralized, and we have arrested over 116 Boko Haram terrorist informants, their spies, and their couriers on logistics, and their coordinators in the villages, in towns, and even in the forests. Our intelligence corps, along with the Department of State Services, and of course our good friends, the civilian JTF, have worked very hard to see that this is achieved.
President Muhammadu Buhari described as fulfilling that efforts made so far in the renewed fight against terrorism and insurgency have paid off and applauded the troops for exhibiting high sense of courage and patriotism.
As far as the operation in the Northeast, Mr. President is happy, highly elated, and this is an encouragement to me and the troops. And I urge them to maintain this high standard of operational capability so that not only in the Northeast, other troops in the other areas are also will do the same. Just like what is happening in the Northwest. The troops are determined. We are giving them the necessary support. We are reinforcing the troops in the Northwest. We are also getting more equipment for them to operate with. The overall plan is to rid the whole of the Northwest, and of course, imagine threats that are coming up in the in other parts of the country, especially the North Central, and of course, South, West, Southeast, and the South. So it's a comprehensive approach to tackle any insecurity that is emerging.
The Nigerian Army, Lieutenant General Buratai, however, said will continue to synergize with other services and security agencies in the task of securing Nigeria for effective service delivery. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
This is Panorama coming to you from the Lagos Network Center. We pause here for a break. More reports when we return.
Coronavirus is real. Steps to avoid this pandemic. Wash your hands regularly or sanitize your hands. Keep social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Stay at home unless absolutely necessary. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or mouth if your hands are not clean. Avoid the spread of coronavirus. Coronavirus is real.
Thanks for staying with us. The initiative of the federal government to use the rail system of transportation to accelerate economic growth is receiving a boost. This is sequel to the resuscitation of freight operations through rail at the Apapa Seaport. Michael Olale reports.
Endless queue of trucks scrambling to gain access into their Apapa ports. It is a necessary hurdle that must be crossed unharmed, but businesses are feeling the huge losses with yard occupancy growing on daily basis. The advocacy that a multimodal system of transportation could be the answer to this challenge informed the reactivation of the rail system of transportation at the seaports by the federal government. This service was in existence but put on hold for operational reasons.
We only expect this to get better. Ask me why. Because the standard gauge is just at the other side. What we're trying to do today is what? Start with this SOP on the narrow gauge so that by the time the standard gauge gets in here, it will just ride on an existing functional system.
The expectation is high as investors are already counting the benefits, especially as it relates to enhancing operational efficiency and cost reduction.
What we agreed now is 2 trains a day. I mean, it just to set off the operations. We intend to scale up to as much as 4 trains in the nearest future.
The Nigerian Shippers Council brokered the deal based on its persistence that the cost of doing business in the shipping subsector could be reduced by 35%.
We also expect that in those areas where the delivery points, there may be investments, PPP basis, could be private people, they could have warehouses, they could have trailer parks.
With this initiative, it is the expectation of key players that the calmness and serene atmosphere Apapa was once known for will soon return. In Lagos, Michael Olale, NT News.
Now, to speak more on the rail revolution in the country via Skype, is the Managing Director of the Nigerian Railway Corporation, Fidel Okiria. Thanks for joining us on Panorama this afternoon.
Good afternoon, Nigerians.
Okay, we just watched a report by Michael Olale. Can you just tell us more about the project?
We have been zealous of trying to help importers and exporters to go by rail because of the peace of mind you have when you go by rail. And we've been doing this for a very long time. We are going to the dry port in Kano, Kaduna, Fontua. But as the economy was going up, I think the interest and the railway went down. The interest of moving by rail also went. But now that we are at least up, we are encouraging our customers to come back. But we started with short distance during this past 2 years, and at the time it became difficult. And we thank the Executive Secretary of our Council who have brokered this peace, because it's good for Nigerians, either you import or not, ordinary citizen. What's happening is that they expect us to have goods that are coming out before we can pay in export. Or we have X before we can take them, which should not be the case. Because we are not importer, we are only carrying goods for people. But yesterday's meeting, it has resolved that we can move in our goods, either export or import, depending on the direction we have. Because if we save the road, if we save the pain of the owner of the goods, because now we are trying to link with the standard gauge track in the port. But before we link it with the standard gauge, which when we finish, we can take load to the Badandra port. But those going to the north can still move by narrow gauge, and we can't afford to stop that. So that's why we are quite generous and happy that yesterday event took place.
All right, let's talk about coverage now. What are the locations the service will cover?
Presently, we can take load to Kaduna. You know, we have the what you call it, island port in Kaduna. So we are moving for them. At the time, we had a problem with the bridge close to Mina, but we have fixed that. We are ready to go. Before COVID, they were trying to give us some containers, I think 40 containers to go. But COVID came and the interstate movement stopped. Now that things are looking better, and people are getting adjusted to the discipline to cope COVID-19, we are hoping within the next 2 weeks, we should be able to move interstate. So we move to Kaduna. At the same time, we are pressing to move from Port Harcourt port, because the congestion you have in Lagos is the problem we have in the ports. But right now, we have the restoration of track in the port affected our access to the port, which the minister is looking to seriously. So if we do that, we have the capacity or line to move from Lagos up to Kano, and then up to Kwara Namoda, that is Fontua, where you have the upcoming dry ports. So we can go to the north. But what we are very effective on is that the short distance, moving to Ibadan, moving to what you call Jola, Joko, they put the metal and the book, because there are some people that encourage themselves handling equipment within those.
That's a very great news.
40 containers, but 40 containers of 20 foot. One can take 20 of 40 foot containers at a port.
That's a very great news, and I know many Nigerians will be very, very happy hearing this. Now, talking about networking, networking the whole 6 geopolitical zones through rail, is the project still ongoing?
Right, it's ongoing. It's a dream, and it's coming to reality. You know, this project started the Kaduna Abuja, and that has for 4 years now been up and doing. And we receive more coaches, but we are trying to encourage people to us go back. We have some wagons for goods. Unfortunately, there are no enough industries that really require to move cement or all this apart from Kaduna to. So that's why we are. Thank God the government has approved the Ibadan to Kano, and the effect of that is that we start from Kaduna to Abuja at the same time. We start from Ibadan to Lorry, so that the longer the distance, the better for people to move goods. And in the worry, it has been the track has been completely finished. We are doing skeletal service of not commercial basis, but now we are going to add more 10 coaches to that, and we have already wagons movement.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Engineer Fidet Okiria. I know you have a lot to tell Nigerians. Thank you so much for sharing your views with us.
It's a pleasure. We just please understand it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Moving on now, the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, says the candidates who sat for the 2020 edition of the Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination, UTME, will soon know the cutoff marks of the different courses they applied for. Candidates can now also go ahead and print their results. Head of Public Affairs of JAMB, Fabian Benjamin, stated this in an exclusive interview with NTA News in Abuja. Olayinka Ojo reports.
To decide on cutoff mark for admission into tertiary institutions in Nigeria, a stakeholders policy meeting is usually held in large auditoriums with representatives from all tertiary institutions in the country and other key players in the education sector. The JAMB 2020 policy meeting to decide this year's cutoff marks will be a departure from the norm, as it will be virtually conducted due to COVID-19. While no new dates have been announced for the conduct of the Senior Secondary School Certificate Examination and that of National Examination Council, JAMB says the board will begin admission of new students for 2020-2021 academic session for candidates already with SSE and NECO results.
We will go ahead with the process and also see how things unfold. If we are lucky, or if the candidates are lucky, and the whole thing maybe goes down, the two examination body will conduct their exam and will be good to go.
The Minister of Education, Adamu Adamu, is expected to chair the JAMB 2020 policy meeting. Olayinka Ojo, NTA News.
Now sports updates.
If the LMC can get their acts right, we